Welcome to Tikvat Israel, and thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Dr. Jonathan Solomon. I'm a nationally certified school psychologist and an inactive licensed psychologist. I'm going to set the tone before tonight's official welcome. Tonight's topic, Understand the Impact, will provide a range of information about what is going on in our federal government and what you can do to address it. We recognize that some of the information shared tonight may be difficult, particularly for those who are who are more directly impacted by changes in the federal workforce or by the new executive orders. The current political atmosphere can be stressful regardless of which political party you belong to. Despite this heightened stress, we ask that everyone treat each other with respect and dignity. Given all that is going on, this is a good time for me to share some information about stress. Our daily lives on a regular day can be stressful, and on top of that, we are sometimes hit with unexpected personal, financial, health, or emotional pressures. We all know that these are a normal part of life, yet physical and emotional health can be greatly impacted by events that occur. Maintaining physical and emotional health is obviously important, but they are not on everybody's daily radar. So take this as your friendly reminder. And physical and emotional health are absolutely intertwined. So eating healthfully, getting proper sleep and exercise, monitoring your weight or blood pressure, and the like are all important. And just as we monitor our physical health, we must do so with our emotional health. I have an example that might give you some insight. So when you call somebody up or when you run into them on the street, what do? The first thing you say is, "Hi, how are you?" However, how often do any of us stop and say to ourselves, how am I doing? And we don't do that. Knowing where you are is an important emotional action. And these self-check-ins can take 5 or 10 seconds. Coping strategies not only give you information about where you are emotionally, but they give you a chance to either avoid or reduce your emotional upset. I'll give you one such coping strategy right now. An amazingly simple strategy is to simply close your eyes for 10 seconds. Researchers have found that this greatly increases the alpha waves in your brain, and it can keep you on track emotionally. So I suggest you find a regular time, 10 seconds isn't much, to do this sometime during your day. A regular time, which you'll hear me say repeatedly tonight, is important because it makes it more likely you'll do it. Doing it after you eat breakfast, before you start, when you sit down to work at your desk, when you go to bed, doesn't matter. You're more likely to keep up with it if you do it on a regular basis. I'll be talking more about coping strategies and emotional health later in this program, including one thing you can do that will save you 1 hour out of your day every day. For now, I'd like to call upon Rabbi Mark Israel for his official welcome and the introduction of our esteemed visitors and speakers.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, and to the cantor for helping to set us in the right place as we prepare for tonight, because we are all dealing with so much at this time. As the rabbi of this community, I would normally say it is a great pleasure to welcome all of you to Tikvat Israel, but much of why we are here today is not for pleasurable reasons. So many of us have watched with fear and anxiety as the norms of our democracy and the institutions of our nation have been gutted and cast aside by this administration. And worse, we've been forced to listen to the dangerous rhetoric of the members of this administration, vilifying so many of us and our neighbors, calling immigrants gang members and murderers, denying the existence of the transgender community and casting them as deviant, saying that they want civil servants, and this is a quote, to be traumatically affected. We want them to wake up and not want to go to work. We want their funding to be shut down. We want to put them in trauma. Those are the words of the Director of the Office of Management and Budget. Well, if the goal has been to traumatize our nation, I think this administration has been extremely successful. But we gather tonight from many traditions and as neighbors because we don't want to wallow in the misery of that trauma. We want to be able to take action, and we want to hear from you, our government representatives, what you and what we can be doing to stop the madness. For those who have been involved in Maryland politics, Representative Jamie Raskin is no stranger. An American University professor of constitutional law, Jamie brought his vast knowledge of law into practice as a 3-term state senator in Annapolis. His signature accomplishments included his work to pass marriage equality and to abolish the death penalty in Maryland. And when then Representative Chris Van Hollen ran for Senate in 2016, Jamie Raskin took on a very talented field of Democrats and handily won the nomination to represent Maryland's 8th District. As a 5-term member of Congress, he is now the ranking minority member of the House Judiciary Committee and previously held that same role for the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability. And of course, nationally, Representative Raskin is known for his role as the lead impeachment manager in the second impeachment trial of President Donald Trump, and for his service on the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. Remarkably, he took on those difficult roles just days after the tragic death of his son Tommy by suicide. I had always respected Representative Raskin as the best of what a public servant should be: hardworking, honest, intelligent, personable. But in his book, Unthinkable: Trauma, Truth, and the Trials of American Democracy, he was also something that is so rarely seen at all, and especially in politicians. He was open and vulnerable, sharing the personal details of the most difficult experience a parent can imagine, with the hope that his words might help others and prevent, hopefully, someone else from going through that agonizing experience. Through his words and his deeds, time and again, Representative Jamie Raskin has shown himself to be an exemplar of the rabbinic adage, במקום שאין אנשים השתדל להיות איש, in a place where no one shows humanity, strive to be a mensch. We are so proud to have you as our representative in Congress. And it is also a pleasure to welcome first-term Montgomery Council, second term now, right? No, still first. Councilmember Natali Fani-Gonzalez here to Tikvat Israel. As an immigrant herself, Natali knows the struggles good, hardworking people face trying to make a better life for themselves and for their families. She came to America as a teen with her mom, not able to speak English, working weekends cleaning houses with her mom while completing high school. She won a full scholarship to Goucher College, where she earned degrees in political science and international relations. After college, quite relevant to today's world right now, Natali worked for CASA on behalf of immigrants, where she successfully fought for the Maryland DREAM Act and other policies to uplift low-income communities. Before becoming a council member, Natali was the vice chair of the Montgomery County Planning Board, where she was a master of the master plans, including the Beers Mill and Great Seneca plans to spur economic growth in our neighborhoods here. And important to many of us, and especially to Jonathan, the bicycle master plan. But just as important, she used her position whenever possible to help small, local, and immigrant-owned businesses. I had a chance to work with the council member as she took on in her very first year the difficult role in forging a compromise in last year's rent stabilization bill. While no compromise will make everyone happy, she made sure that there was a bill that could win a majority on the council, and we are so grateful for her work on it. And while it was nice when the Washingtonian magazine named her as a woman to watch, anybody who has worked with her could have told you that. Natali lives in Wheaton with her husband and their children. It is a great pleasure for us to be able to welcome First Representative Jamie Raskin, who will be followed by Councilmember Natali Fani-Gonzalez.
Rabbi Israel, thank you for that beautiful introduction of me and that beautiful introduction of Natali, and you've made my day. It started off a little bit rough. I heard that that my friend Tim Snyder was going to be moving to Canada, which was a little bit of a shock today. But you've lifted my spirits immeasurably with your kind words. It means a lot to me, and thank you, Cantor Helsner, I don't know where you are right now, for your beautiful voice. And I understand you made a big announcement, and congratulations on all of your extraordinary work here. And I know how much it means to this community. Who else did I want to thank? Oh, I wanted to thank Sally Cram and Beth Smith also, and everybody who is involved in an active way in this great congregation. I'm delighted to be with all of you this evening, and happy to talk about the tough times that we're going through. I'm doing this everywhere in our beautiful 8th District, but also across Maryland. Over the weekend, I went to the Eastern Shore to do a town hall meeting for my colleague Andy Harris, who couldn't quite squeeze it in for his constituents. And so I went and I did one there, and I did one in Pennsylvania, in Bethlehem. I was in Ohio. So we're out talking about what's going on because there's such a level of angst and concern about what's happening. And so it's very important for us to talk about it, to try to explain best we can what's happening in the government and in the country. I went to our State of the Union joint session of Congress. Maybe some of you watched it on TV. My guest was a constituent, a resident of Rockville named Dr. Lauren McGee, who is a pediatric cancer biologist. researcher now. She got sacked on February the 14th, the so-called Valentine's Day massacre, where tens of thousands of federal workers lost their jobs. And she was a probationary employee, which sounds like it might be a problem, but she's not on probation because she did anything bad. She was on probation because she did so well as a postdoc graduate student for several years on this research team that she was promoted to be the head of the whole team and to be the chief biologist. But by virtue of being on the probation list, they fired her and said that she was no longer needed. Now, she was one of many constituents, obviously, I've been talking to. So I invited her to come with me to the address, and the president spoke and said that one of his major priorities was abolishing childhood cancer in America. And I felt very embarrassed even to subject her to that, we heard some other things that night. We heard about all of the great savings that have been made for wasteful expenditures after they sacked, as a first move, the 18 inspectors general for the federal departments and agencies whose job it is actually to ferret out waste, fraud, and abuse, and saved us $91 billion last year. But in any event, they were laying out some of what they thought were the wasteful or fraudulent expenditures, and the president said, and do you know that at the NIH, they spent $8 million creating transgender mice? And so that was too much even for me. I thought, well, maybe there's something to this whole Elon Musk Doge thing. $8 million for transgender mice, I couldn't understand it. But I luckily had my phone there. I took it out and I Googled it immediately to find within 10 seconds that what he was talking about was the use of transgenic mice, that is, mice who have been injected with DNA so we could do research on, among other things, asthma, HIV, AIDS, Alzheimer's disease, breast cancer, and colon cancer. But believe it or not, that night even got worse, because I left and I had my guest with me, and we got in the car and I turned on the radio, and what do you know, within 10 minutes of the end of the speech, the chief of staff to Speaker Mike Johnson got into his car and then plowed into the back of a parked police car at 35 miles an hour. So they open up the door, he staggers out of the car, they give him a breathalyzer, and he's arrested for drunk driving. The speaker was just minutes away, and they interviewed him, and he immediately declared his support for him and said it would not affect his job in any way, which just goes to show we have way too many DUI hires in America right now. But in any event, my friends, everything is under attack right now, and my constituents, well, they work everywhere in the federal government, but of course, the NIH is right here, NOAA is right here, the Food and Drug Administration is right here, the Consumer Product Safety Commission is right here, the Naval Surface Laboratory is right here. And so my constituents have been affected from the very beginning by all of this. It started, of course, with the fork in the road letter, which was a verbatim repetition of what Elon Musk had sent the employees at Twitter when he took over, and at least according to some, ruined that business. But people could either stay on and take their chances, knowing that there was going to be an effort to replace most of the workforce, or they could resign voluntarily, and in the case of the federal government, have 9 months off for paid vacation. Now, you guys know Montgomery County. The people here don't want 9 months paid vacation. They want to do their jobs for the American people. They want to work for the American people. And so it's this horrific choice that people are being presented with. 98% of the people rejected that and said they would take their chances because they wanted to stay at the Department of State or AID or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau or whatever it is. Then a whole series of layoffs begin. Now, the good news I want to bring to you is that we're winning every day in court. Every day. There are more than 125 cases that have been brought. We have more than 50 temporary restraining orders or preliminary injunctions against the lawlessness and the constitutional violations that are taking place against our people. Now, some of them are just outright naked violations of the Constitution. For example, the so-called birthright citizenship executive order, which purported to nullify the very first sentence of the 14th Amendment, which says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. It couldn't be much clearer than that. And yet they purported to take away citizenship from millions of people whose parents themselves were not born in the United States. It was struck down by an Obama judge, a Biden judge, a Reagan judge, a Bush judge, and a Trump judge. And the Reagan judge said it was the easiest decision he had ever rendered in his entire career. He said, you don't have to be a lawyer to understand what's wrong with this. You just have to know how to read, okay? So there are some like that that are just naked violations of the Constitution. Another one actually was a ban on transgender people serving in the armed services that was struck down immediately as a violation of equal protection and an insult and an affront to thousands and thousands of Americans. Then some of them are a vindication of Congress's power over the purse and power and Congress's lawmaking power, right? It's not up to Donald Trump, much less Elon Musk, to dismantle the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau or the Agency for International Development. The first Article 1 of the Constitution says that all legislative power is vested in the Congress of the United States. We created the CFPB. We created NOAA. We created the NIH. If anybody is going to tear it down, it's going to be us. It's not up to the President of the United States. Do you know what the core function of the President is under Article 2 of the Constitution? To take care that the laws are faithfully executed. Not mangled, not distorted, not thwarted, not trashed, to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. The President gets his shot when the House and the Senate pass bills. And it becomes a law if the President signs it. If not, it doesn't become a law unless we override by 2/3 veto. But in any event, when we get through that process, the lawmaking process is over. The President's job is to implement the will of Congress. And the courts in Article 3 have been insisting that the President do that. And by the way, an Appropriations Act is a federal law. It's not a budgetary recommendation. It's not a bargaining chip with the President. An Appropriations Act is a federal law, like the law which says you cannot assault federal officers. So we won with the AID on that. We won with the CFPB. We're winning on civil service cases, right? All of the tens of thousands of probationary employees fired have been reinstated legally because the court said these people have to be treated as individuals and not en masse. You can't fire 100% of the probationary employees. That shows that you're not looking at what their professional performance is, right? Under the civil service, you can only be fired if you engage in professional misconduct, if you steal from your agency, or if you have poor performance reviews. Well, these people weren't treated as individuals. The courts have said they were treated as though this were a RIF, a reduction in force. And that has rules of its own that have to be followed, including protection for different groups, including veterans. Veterans are 30% of federal workers, and they just blew right past that and fired all these people. So I want to tell you, we are winning every day because of the lawlessness and the monarchical arrogance of what they're doing. They don't even look at what the law says or what the Constitution says or what other prior cases are saying. I think there is also a huge popular backlash in the country taking place to what's going on. Some of these legal actions, like birthright citizenship or transgender, I think that they will last, at least as if the Supreme Court doesn't overturn them. Some of them, like with the probationary workers, are a delaying game because, all right, maybe they've been restored, but they've not been sent back to work. In fact, this just adds insult to injury. All of these departments are saying, okay, we'll put you back on administrative leave. In other words, we'll pay you, but you can't do the job you're supposed to be doing at the EPA or at NOAA. And we have tens of thousands of workers who are being paid not to work at this point because they don't want the government agencies to be doing their job. Now, let me say something about the immigrants because everybody's talking about what's happening with Judge Boasberg. In that case, President Trump and ICE decided to round up immigrants who they described as Venezuelan gangbangers, and they said, we're going to send them out of the country to the dictator of El Salvador, who runs prisons that have been condemned by Amnesty International, and we are going to do that under the authority of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which has only been used during that original period of the Alien and Sedition Acts, World War I and World War II. So this is the first time it's ever been invoked in peacetime, and there's a reason for that. It's a wartime statute. It says if America is at war with a foreign country, which means if the Congress has declared war against a foreign country, or we're suffering a military invasion of a foreign country, the president can round up the foreign nationals of that country and send them back to where they came from. Well, couple problems. Congress has not declared war on Venezuela. You might also have noticed that Venezuela has not invaded the United States. And the people who are being sent back are not being charged with anything in connection with war or military invasion. They're being charged, allegedly, as gangbangers, drug runners, or gun dealers. Problem there, none of them has been charged with anything. And there have been no hearings on any of them. So some of their families are coming forward. What one guy says, I'm a gay hairdresser from Florida. I have a tattoo, which was seen when I came into the country. He's a lawful immigrant. He's a permanent resident. I have a tattoo on, which they mistakenly identified as a gang tattoo. It's of his favorite soccer team in Venezuela. And he's on the airplane to go to the torture prison in El Salvador. Case after case like that. Now, maybe he's lying, maybe his family's lying, I don't know. That's why the two most beautiful words in the English language are due process, where evidence is actually offered and people have an opportunity to hear the evidence against them and then they're able to say their thing. In any event, they're using the wrong statute. And that's what Judge Boasberg said. He said, if you've got something against these people under the immigration system, then you have to invoke the Immigration and Naturalization Act. And he, moreover, said, bring these people back. And originally he thought it was before the planes took off, but he said, I don't know whether they've taken off or not. You're not telling me. If they're in the air, turn them around, bring them back. And they defied the order of Judge Boasberg, who was originally appointed to the bench by President Bush and was roommates with Justice Kavanaugh at Yale Law School, okay? And I know a lot of his cases. He's not a liberal judge. This is not Thurgood Marshall, okay? But he's very angry about what's taking place in terms of the blatant violation of the rule of law. So you see the pictures. There's a young woman. My staff was overwhelmed with phone calls today. Young woman who was surrounded by men in plain clothes who identified themselves as ICE agents and took her in Boston. I think she's an undergraduate. I haven't studied this, so I think she's a graduate student, okay. Because she had been photographed at one of the Gaza protests on campus, and that was it. She'd not been charged with any crime, had no arrest record, and so on. So this is a time like the Alien and Sedition Acts. And somebody wrote Thomas Jefferson a letter in 1798, his friend John Taylor, and he said he was so anxious and concerned about what was happening in the country. And he said he didn't even know if he could be involved in politics anymore. He wanted to tune it all out. And Jefferson wrote him back this beautiful letter. You can read the whole thing. It's online. Check out the Jefferson letter to John Taylor. But in it he said, "A little patience in the reign of witches shall pass over. Their spells dissolve, and the people recovering their true sight restore their government to its true principles. In the meantime, we are suffering the horrors and malignities of this oppression." But he said, if the game runs against us sometimes at home, we must have patience until our luck turns, because this is a game where principles are at stake. And I like that. This period is going to test all of us. It's going to require a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance, a lot of courage, and a lot of compassion, too, to get through it. But I'm convinced that we will be able to get through it with the help of the courts, with the help of the states and great leadership at the local level, like Natali, and by, above all, the engagement of all of the people. And never forget the three most important words of our Constitution are the three first words: we the people. That's how the whole thing started. Anybody who aspires and attains to public office is nothing but the servant of the people. Not the kings, not the queens. We're not the lords. We're not the dictators. We're nothing but the servants of the people. And the minute somebody begins to confuse that relationship and try to align America with governments, with kings and queens and lords and emperors and dictators, that is the moment to evict us, eject, reject, impeach, try, convict, start all over again. This is the people's government. It's based on the governing capacity of all the people, the equality of all the people, and the rights and freedoms of the people. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Good evening, everybody. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Congressman Raskin. Again, my name is Natali Fani-Gonzalez. I'm a council member, and I'm just going to share a quick story. Back in November, after the election, that day, that was a Tuesday. On that Friday, I was scheduled to go to Mary Lotherman Middle School in Aspen Hill to speak to students. I go to a lot of schools all the time. And I was in the class talking to students about my job in Montgomery County Council. And during the Q&A, one girl raises her hand and she says, "I'm scared." And she started crying in front of everybody. Then somebody else next to her said, "My mom is undocumented. I don't know what's gonna happen. What am I gonna do?" The thing is, like, when I talk to people, I have that touch, and kids just opened up, and I feel like I'm a therapist every now and then, but that day really got me. And that was just a couple days after the elections. So as soon as I got to the office, I talked to my team, and I said, we need to start having Know Your Rights events throughout my whole district and print these cards. I have a whole bunch in my bag if anybody wants them. So it's basically a Know Your Rights card and what I'm doing, and I keep them very private. You won't see any of this in social media. I hold Know Your Rights events with the immigrant community. I do it in schools, and I do it at churches, so faith institutions. The last one I had was last week, and I had 300 people who showed up. And I usually hold them just in Spanish with English translation. And just reminding people that you live in an amazing state, Maryland, but you live in an amazing and the most welcoming county in the nation. Montgomery County, we walk the talk. We're here to embrace our values and protect you. The Montgomery County Police Department, and I work closely with them, they are not immigration agents. They're here to help us. And I'm gonna share with you a couple of cases. Every time ICE, and they have come to Montgomery County, especially after November, every time they come here, and they have come twice, they just happen to come to my district, because I have the largest number of Latinos in District 6. And when they come, because we do have a relationship with them, I get a phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning. It happened twice, like I said. And they tell me, we're gonna be, in this case was Aspen Hill, we're gonna be in Aspen Hill, and we're after this particular person. This is the person's profile, and then I ask, can you like give me more like why this person? And they say, well, in this case, this person he killed somebody overseas, and he actually has an order to be detained. And so I just wanted to let you know, because every time ICE comes, our community, it's on alert. People talk and use WhatsApp, the app. And I get all the phone calls, I get all the messages. So they inform me so I can tell them, well, this is what's happening. It's not a raid. We haven't had any raids in Montgomery County. So just these two particular cases, one some person killed somebody else, and the other case was somebody who had sexually abused somebody else. So those two cases. And I felt that I needed to share that with you so you understand the relationship that we have in the county with the police department, but also with ICE, okay? And I want to keep it that way. I want to know what's happening, and I want to be proactive. So that's one thing. The other thing that I want to mention is that I chair the Economic Development Committee for the County Council, so I've been meeting with folks from the County Executive's Office and the different Chamber of Commerce in the county, and we came up with a website that was released a few days ago. It's called Mobilize Montgomery, and it's basically a centralized page where if you have been laid off by the federal government, you can go there to either, search for jobs, connect with resources that we have in Montgomery County, and we're doing different meetings throughout the county, educating people about the resources that we do have in Montgomery County. One thing that I would like to share very quickly, because I know we have a limited amount of time, is that we are pushing, and I have done this for a while now with County Executive Mark Elrich, the idea of having more incubators in Montgomery County. So now what we're doing is talking and having relationships with people who have been laid off from NOAA or NIH, very smart people, but who probably don't have the skills to start a business because it's not something that they have done. So now what we're trying to do is connect them with a business center that we have in Montgomery County and say, okay, if you're partnered up with somebody else or you want to create your own business, this is what you need, and these are the grants that we have in Montgomery County that can support you. There is money that we have. And we want to make it good use of it. We also have, in the county executive's proposal, the budget proposal, we also were able to include funds for technical assistance and legal assistance and marketing assistance, because it's not just about creating a business, but understanding how can I market the business? How can I understand all the legal stages that you got to go through depending on your business, especially if you are in the universe of science, right? Montgomery County is the third place around the nation on life sciences, and we want to work hard to keep moving up and be top. I was in Taiwan with the county executive last year, promoting Montgomery County, and it was great, but we need to continue doing telling people about the things that we have in Montgomery County within our own people living here. So see this as an opportunity. Again, Mobilize Montgomery is the website, and if you like to have a copy of we call them the red card of Know Your Rights. This one is in English. They're usually bilingual. I printed 4,000 of them, and they're gone. So I just ordered a new batch because we're doing so many of these Know Your Rights events, and it just it gives people peace of mind when they understand that we are with them. And the last thing I will say, please don't lose your faith. We're going through a lot right now, but we got to keep it positive, and we got to keep it together. At the end of the day, we're all building a caring economy and a caring society where we depend on each other to move and do amazing things. As an immigrant, I'm very proud to live in the United States, and I will do everything in my power to continue defending the Constitution, because that's just the right thing to do, and I just want to give back. It's something that is important for me and my family. So thank you so much for having me here, and have a good evening, everybody.
So we're going to move into questions and answers, and we have the questions that people submitted online that we summarized, and some of that we had given to the representative and the council member so that they were able to address some of those within the context of their remarks, but we're also, Sally Cram, one of our co-presidents, and Beth Smith are going to share some of those questions. And if you have additional questions that you would like, there are people who have pieces of paper and pens so that you could write down your questions and give them to Sally or to Beth. But before we do that, I just want to make sure I have an opportunity, because I know the representative has a very tight schedule, but I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to thank both of you so much for being here, and also to invite you to join with us when we celebrate Cantor Helsner on May 18th. These are invitations for the event, and we hope that you will join as our guests.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, Sally.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Council Member. Thank you, Congressman. We have more questions than we probably have time. So I'm going to try to group them as they came in. There's a great deal of concern about cuts to SSI, Medicaid. Someone who is about to sign up for Social Security and doesn't know how that's going to play out. Would you have guidance on those topics?
Yes, thank you. Let me preface it by saying I've got to leave at 8:35 because I'm doing a TV thing. I rarely get invited to go to Fox News. I think I'm going to Fox News. And so they're going to be here. They're coming here. So I'll go out, but I'll come back if people want to stay, because you guys are my constituents. So look, first of all, I want to introduce Kathleen Connor, who is the director of my district office. She's the chief of my district office. We've been through thick and thin with, the federal government. We went through COVID-19, and we went through the first Trump administration. I've got the best congressional constituent service staff in America, bar none. They are incredible. And we send the other members of Congress and their staffs to go and see what they're doing. So we are there to fight for everybody on Social Security, on SSI. The good news is that up until this time, Social Security has been one of the most efficient and effective departments in the history of the world. It's the most effective anti-poverty program probably that the world has ever seen. Just incredibly, they've decided to start to go after it. And so they've fired thousands of people. Martin O'Malley, our former governor, who was the SSA administrator under President Biden, told me just a few days ago he's very alarmed by the cuts that are taking place. It's getting to be near impossible to get through on the phones. They're telling people, go to the offices in order to sign up if you haven't signed up yet. And believe me, I'm getting pretty close myself, so I'm paying attention to this. They go to the offices, but they're closing a lot of the offices. So we have got to turn this around. President Trump has said he's not touching Social Security, but they've already touched Social Security. So you're going to start to hear us talking about this more and more and more. Meantime, on Medicaid, the terrible news is that they voted for $880 billion in cuts that can come largely only from Medicaid. And that is going to mean either there are whole classes of people who could have been on Medicaid before who can't be on it, or there's going to be a cut in the benefits or the aid to service providers across the board. We don't know how any of that is going to work out, but it's a nightmare, and it's all to pay for an echo of the big tax cut they did the last time, which benefited overwhelmingly the wealthiest people in the country and the biggest corporations in the country. So we're going to fight all of that stuff, which we think is just terrible public policy, but we're going to also fight to make sure we can, get Social Security, SSI, disability payments for the people who need them. And, our office has had very good relationships with the people there as long as they're not getting fired and sacked. So we pledge that we will do everything in our power. Kathleen works through the night sometimes. She's working on the weekends with her incredible staff. We've got a small staff, but they're amazing, and we'll do whatever we can to get us through that, because that's our pledge. That's what we're going to do.
Thank you, Congressman. Again, I'm sorry. The next question is also, I believe, for the Congressman. And we have about 10 versions of this question, which is, what can we do when the president willfully ignores judicial orders?
So there's the big one. I mean, well, first, the good news. Good news is every president in our history, with the exception of George Washington, certainly every president who's ever appeared before the Supreme Court has lost at some point, and every president has accepted it. There's the mythology about Andrew Jackson, that basically apocryphal story about Jackson said, well, the court has made their decision, now let them enforce it. That never really happened. So it would be a very extreme thing for a president to defy the Supreme Court, especially a Supreme Court which was so much fashioned in the image of this president. Remember, he was bragging during the campaign about how this was the court he created to overturn Roe versus Wade, and got his way in the Dobbs decision. He's lost twice already, and they've accepted it. They lost on the $2.1 billion that the lower court said have got to be given to AID and to private contractors in already contracted for appropriated federal money. And they went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court allowed it. It was only a 5-4 decision. It should have been much bigger than that. We also won a decision yesterday on the bump stocks for guns. So that was another one that we won on. So people should not be walking around with excess gloominess about this, because we've won in the Supreme Court. We will win, I believe, in the Supreme Court. And look what Chief Justice Roberts said last week, because I've got MAGA colleagues who are running around saying, we're going to impeach Judge Boasberg, and we're going to impeach that judge and that judge and that judge. I think there's 17 judges they want to impeach now, right? And I say, why are you impeaching all these judges? They say, never before has a president faced this kind of judicial onslaught before in his first 100 days in office, which really cracked me up. I just had to start laughing. And I said, well, has it occurred to you that no president has ever engaged in such an onslaught against the Constitution in his first 100 days before? But anyway, they want to impeach all these judges, and Chief Justice Roberts made the essential point. He said, the proper response to disagreement with a court's decision in America is not to impeach the judge, much less to threaten or intimidate the judge or to violate the orders of the court. It's to appeal the decision. It's to appeal the decision. And so that's right. And a lot of, we've lost 4 judges that have been killed in the last 25 years. Justice Barrett's sister got a death threat, a bomb threat last week. It's insane what is going on out there. So I'm glad Chief Justice Roberts invited me to the court to address the judicial conference. I went over, I talked about that. And I also talked about the steel seizure decision and how a court of 9 liberal Democrats voted against President Truman when he wanted to seize the steel mills because they said it was not within the power of the president. It was not a power that was conferred by the Constitution, nor had it been conferred by Congress. And Truman was mad at them and so on, but they did their job when they stood up for the Constitution without any regard to political party. So I'll come back and I'll just wish me luck in my appearance here. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. We hope you come back unscathed.
We do have a question about Maryland state law. I know that you're a county person. And it's a constitutional law question, so if you prefer, we can wait.
You can ask, and if I don't know, we can hold it. I don't want to tell you not to ask the question. So.
Given that the current Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, opening up a bevy of archaic state laws prohibiting abortion, the Constitution of Maryland requires a belief in the existence of God in order to be on a jury or hold public office?
Oh my God. I'm gonna say for pro-choice, basically, is that?
Well, shouldn't the legislature remove this language so that a future Supreme Court doesn't use it?
Well, that will be a state delegate question. We don't deal with any state issues, but why don't, if there's a list of questions that we can help you follow up with, anything local that you have, or?
The final comment on that question was go Terps.
Oh, there you go. You know, actually, I was in the game 2 days ago, the basketball game for the Terps, the women basketball game. I took my daughter who plays basketball, and it was an amazing game. So, if that's it, then.
No, I know the.
Uh-oh.
Someone wrote that they're concerned about the masked and hooded officers and agents shown abusing people being deported. Who are they? Who gives them orders? They look like they are abusing the prisoners. Is it legal for them to be masked?
Yes, and I think Congressman Jamie Raskin talked about the deportations of Venezuelans who are being taken to El Salvador. Definitely cannot be constitutional. I'm Venezuelan, so I feel that this could have happened to me, and I'm hoping. And what's happening in El Salvador is a very right-wing president. So you know his name is Bukele, and I was actually invited to El Salvador a month ago, and I said, no, there's no way I'm gonna, and I love the Salvadoran community. Most of the Latinos who live in Montgomery County are from El Salvador, so my comments are not based on the people, they're based on the president, which are two different things. And but what's happening there, they're violating human rights left to right, and as a Venezuelan, it hurts me that this is going on, and I'm hoping, like Congressman Jamie Raskin said, that we can uphold the Constitution, because being an immigrant, being an undocumented immigrant, is not a crime. That's not a civil offense. It's not a crime. So I trust that that the court system and the Constitution will uphold our rights. So.
What specific actions and most effective things that we as ordinary lay citizens in the community can do to participate in trying to halt the wanton gutting of the U.S. government, and also urgently counter and prevent a fascist dictatorship and oligarchy from permanently taking over and further destroy our democracy?
Well, I love that question, because I'm an organizer. As it was mentioned, I used to work for Casa de Maryland, and my job, when I was working for the Maryland Dream Act, my job was to focus on the red counties in Maryland, because we do have them, mostly in Western Maryland and the Eastern Shore. And I don't know why, but I do have the touch of making sure that people can reach compromises, proven with rent control or the rent stabilization bill that we passed, my bill. It was not easy. Again, it's important to show up at rallies. There are quite a few at NOAA in Washington, D.C. There's also, every Saturday, there are people gathering at the Tesla store on Rockville Pike. You'll see me there on Saturday. Those things, they are important, because you're active in community, you're engaging in continuing to ensure that we follow what's happening in the different court systems is also is key. And in terms of making sure that if you know people who have been laid off, like I was saying before, it's important to refer them to the resources that we have in Montgomery County, like that website, Mobilize Montgomery, to help people find resources, because we also don't want people to leave the county. We want folks to stay and understand that we live in an amazing community that is very diverse and very proactive, and working together to protect our Constitution and our rights. And again, on the immigrant front, if you know of places or neighborhoods where you think there is a need to have a Know Your Rights action or event, let me know. The rabbi has my contact, because I'm more than happy to host them. In every single one of my meetings, I bring food. I think that's why I get so many people showing up. And I'm telling you, like 300, 400 people show up to my events. and it's because I provide dinner or lunch, and I don't mean pizza. I don't do that. I mean rice, chicken, salad. That's what I do. So that's something that you can help me. And they don't have to be my district. I'm going countywide at this point. And if you want to partner up, I'm more than happy to. So.
You are being asked to join, will you join the seniors demonstration outside of Leisure World?
Oh, I've been there already. Oh, come on now. I was there. There was
Saturday, April 5th.
Yes, I'm planning to be there, but there was one about 3 weeks ago, and I was there, and I had so much fun. Okay, thank you for all of you who organized. And by the way, I try not to use social media anymore because I think it really messed up my mental health. But I did post a few photos from that rally in Leisure World. It was on Georgia Avenue in Leisure World. And man, I've been getting all these really hateful messages because it went kind of viral among conservatives. And since I'm an immigrant, I get attacked a lot. So that particular post for that particular action was no good. So the next one, I probably won't post anything. But know that I'm there, so.
What is Montgomery County doing to help new unemployed government workers who may lose their homes?
Yes, so in Montgomery, on the home front, and this housing is my passion, so we do have rental assistance in Montgomery County, and I am getting quite a few calls to my office from people requesting financial help. The good thing is that right now we're starting the new budget for the county. The county executive proposed his operating budget a couple weeks ago, and the county council is going to start having work sessions next week. And public hearings as well. And we're gonna continue putting millions, literally, on funds that help people have rental assistance. There is another one. There's quite a few, but money to help folks is there. But I'm also concerned that some of the grants that we have for housing issues that we were getting from the federal government, we're not gonna get those anymore. So I'm concerned, and I'm just being completely open and honest with you. Same thing with funds that we were getting from the federal government on issues related to food assistance, access to food, also funds related to access to health care for people who are low income, including dental care. That money is practically, now we're in the mindset that we're not gonna get those funds anymore. And it's a huge problem. That's why there is a proposal for a 3.5% property tax increase. And I'm going to speak for myself because it's now in front of the council. I'm going to do every single thing in my power to not get there, not to go into the property tax increase, because this is the time when people are hurting, and especially the most vulnerable seniors who are in fixed incomes, pretty much. So it's bad, and I didn't want to end up with a bad note, but that's a reality, and a reminder that elections do matter, and the good thing, and we're also waiting with what's happening at the state level. As if you're following the news at the state level, there's also a lot of issues of making sure that they have a balanced budget. And so we're waiting for them to finish at the state in April while we're starting with our work sessions. And hopefully we'll have enough to help everybody, but understanding that we're not going to get the help that we usually got from the federal government.
Thank you. I want to add just to that, that I know in the Jewish community, we also have what's called the Hebrew Free Loan Society, where people are able to access funds in cases of emergencies to make sure that you're not out of your house. I know other faith traditions have similar types of programs. We also have money for individuals who have been impacted through our Jewish Federation. And I know, again, those similar types of programs exist through the Catholic churches and Lutheran services. And so turn to your rabbis, to your ministers, imams, because we often have sources. The most important thing, right, and this will get into a little bit of Jonathan's territory where we're going to go in just a moment, is to know that there are a lot of people who are out here ready to help, ready to mobilize, ready to fundraise if needed, that you should not feel that sense of despair that you're not going to be able to make it. We are going to do all we can to support all of our neighbors, and I will tell you that the uptick in interfaith work since January 20th has been absolutely incredible. We are working together across religious lines in places where that hadn't been taking place for quite some time due to other conflicts that were going on. We're all united in trying to make sure that we're protecting all of our citizens, all of our members, all of our congregants. So please, 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 if you are in a situation where you are feeling lost or desperate, or you know somebody who is, have them turn to the county, have them turn to religious leaders. We are here to help, and I know that all of you will do that for your neighbors as well.
Thank you.
So with that, I think...
Thank you. Rabbi, I just want to, on behalf of the board of Tikvat Israel, Beth and I want to thank you all for coming. We also want to let you know that we are planning to pass all of these questions on to our speakers tonight. And we will press for answers to post on our website. The part of the conversation we didn't get to was what should we do to protect our federal workers? And I think that many have that concern. With that.
The representative may have to go to Fox News, but our council member has an even more important task to do, which is to go put her children to bed. And so there's nothing more important that you can be doing. Thank you. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you back again.
Okay. Now we've still got that stress level going on, so I'd like to talk more about coping strategies. And the first one is a strategy I call 4-5s breathing. This is only, you should only do this if you're physically able. This involves taking a deep breath slowly in through your nose for 5 seconds. That's the first 5. The second 5 is you hold your breath for 5 seconds. The third 5 is you slowly exhale through your wide open mouth. The fourth 5 is you just feel, how am I different right now? This feels better, let me concentrate on that. You can do that anytime you want. You can do that without anybody knowing you're doing it. You should, again, do it at, just before you go to bed, when you're just finishing dinner, at just some regular time, just like you probably always brush your teeth in the same order every day.
Should we practice one right now?
We could, but I think I have something else that we can practice. And that's what I'll get to now. So the other strategy, which we can all practice easily, is to tense and release muscles. Muscles or muscle groups. When you do that, it makes you aware of the tension you feel. And if you want to do this, you can do it under your seat so nobody can tell. You can do it wide open. It's up to you. So, for example, I'm just going to use one muscle group. That's the muscles in my hands and fists. So I and you can do this if you'd like, make a fist. And as you do that, you can feel the tension. I want you to concentrate on the tension in those muscles. So you concentrate on where are those muscles without touching them, obviously. Where are those muscles? How do they feel to be tight and tense? And you really focus on exactly where they are and how they feel. And then you let it go, and you just slowly just release the muscles. And you can feel this remarkable difference. You should concentrate, okay, I'm going to concentrate on that tension leaving those muscles. The more I concentrate on them, the more the muscles become relaxed. You might feel that they become warm. You might feel they tingle, your hands tingle. Doesn't matter what your experience is. It just matters that you're paying attention to how they felt when they were tight and tense and how they feel now that they're more relaxed. The more you concentrate on it, the more relaxed you can sort of push it a little further. And I don't want you to do this publicly because it looks really weird, but I'm not proud. I'll do it. So a lot of people, and after you drive in rush hour, people say, oh, my neck and back are killing me. So this is a really muscle group that is often very tight and tense. So the muscles in your upper back and shoulders and neck, so what you do is you bring your shoulders up as if you're trying to touch your ears, and you hold it, again, like the fist. You feel where the muscles are, how uncomfortable it is, how they feel to be tight and tense. And then after you've done that for a while and you know where the muscles are and how they feel, you slowly let your shoulders drop. You feel this amazing difference. You concentrate on it. You try to get it to go a little bit further and a little bit further. And then you understand where those muscles are. So the advantage is when you're driving and you're starting to feel tight and tense, your brain says, wait a second, I know that feeling, that's tension, and you can do something about it. Okay, I'm talking about coping strategies, but ideally, it's better not to get stressed in the first place, right? So, based on what we've been talking about this evening by our speakers, and based on this topic, how tuned in are you to what's going on in our world today? The constant flow of memes, network talking heads, blogs, rumors, falsehoods, the list is enormous and it can be overwhelming. Do you really need all of this information? I recently heard, and this is very recent, a researcher from the University of California, Berkeley. She's a neuroscientist. Her name is Dr. Sahar Youssef. She described her research about phone notifications, and it struck me as really wonderful mental health advice. Based on her research, she suggested turning off all news notifications on your phones. She believes that the only people that need these news notifications are other news reporters. And I would probably say, and Representative Raskin. This could save you a lot of time and stress each day. And I was telling you, you could save an hour each day out of your day. And this doesn't make sense, but it's research and I trust science. That I hope I'm not a heretic. Turning your phone's display to grayscale instead of color will save you an hour each day. And the reason she gave was that phone manufacturers want to make your phone what they call sticky, that you'll keep using it. And that happens, of course, with things like TikTok as well. But if you turn your phone's your phone's display to grayscale, they have found it will save you an hour each day. So my key point here is that prevention is an important coping strategy. Other things you can do to cope: being physically active, take a 10-minute walk in the neighborhood, exercise at home, place yourself in nature, maintain a healthy sleep schedule and diet, visit with a friend or loved one, connect with prayer. There is no one-size-fits-all. Everybody should find what works for them. And again, if you can do this at a regularly scheduled time so that you'll stick with it, that's even better. I also very much ascribe to the work of Albert Ellis and his rational emotive thinking approach. In a nutshell, he said, change the way you think and you change the way you feel. What we say to ourselves can really help or hurt us. And you might think, I don't say anything to myself, but I think you'll think otherwise as I talk. Sometimes we think in ways that doesn't give ourselves any choice. And that leads us, when we think that way, we feel like there's no solution, and it leads us to make bad decisions or react poorly. Thoughts like, I have to be happy, especially when you watch somebody else's Facebook page. This can't be happening to me. It would be terrible if, and fill in the rest. Getting caught in such a downward spiral of thoughts can be emotionally catastrophic at the extreme, and it can be relatively easy to get to that extreme. Simply changing to thoughts that reflect options can greatly reduce stress and upset. For example, we're sitting in our cars. I would prefer to be on time to my doctor's appointment while you're stuck in traffic. I hope this, and by the way, when you get to the doctor's office, you sit there for 10 minutes anyway. I hope this new relationship works out. It would be better if the government could come to some sort of agreement on issues of importance to me or my community. Hopefully you get the idea. And today I had this very interesting sign from above this morning. I was at a restaurant and I knew I was going to come and give this talk. And the server brought me a mug and it said in big bold letters, "Today is as good as you can make it." And that could have come right out of Albert Ellis's kitchen cupboard. And if you think we as adults are challenged by what is going on, because I want to address this as well, it can be even more confusing and upsetting for our children and grandchildren. Parents and grandparents can make a positive difference by serving as role models. It can be a great comfort to children to simply watch the important adults in their lives cope with upsetting events and situations that pop up in the normal course of a day. And since children do not process information like adults do, you can also act as their safety filter. And when children are present, I strongly suggest you turn the TV or radio news off if you keep it on as background information or background noise. If you want to listen, wait until they're out of the room, or listen to the information through earbuds. I'm not suggesting you stop talking to children about what is going on in the world. Just bring it down to their developmental level and do it within a safe environment. Accept their feelings and reactions as real, and let them know it's okay to ask questions. You won't have an answer for everything, and you can say things like, "That's a good question. I don't have the answer for that right now, but let me think about it, and we can talk about it later." Or you might say, "Yes, I'm worried too." On the other hand, you want to be honest with them. Saying things like, "Everything will be okay," may not be appropriate, especially when it's something like a loved one is seriously ill. An alternative could be something like, "Yes, I'm worried about Grandpa too. We're all going to do everything we can to help him feel as good as possible, and we can tell him that we love him." There are many other strategies, like going to your public library and asking the librarian for storybooks or child-friendly self-help books that can help deal with a child's particular fears or concerns. And don't forget about all the resources at the child's school, the school counselor, the school psychologist, even a beloved teacher. They can all be a great help. It's possible you've already heard some or all of the strategies I've raised tonight, but you haven't been applying them. The current state of affairs demands more intentionality for us. If you commit to just one strategy from tonight's presentation, that would be great. Now, when you need more help than you can get on your own, or you can get from the important people in your life, please reach out for help. Montgomery County has a crisis center in Rockville that provides 24-hour resources, and they also have a mobile crisis team who will come to you. Then there's organizations like Jewish Social Service Agency and many other community services. If you're employed by a large organization, many large employers offer something called the Employee Assistance Program, also known as EAP. These programs typically provide online counselors that you can talk to. They also will refer you to a local person who can provide you several sessions at no or limited cost. And since we're sitting in a house of worship right now, it's important to highlight the benefits of reaching out to your clergy member. Another important 24-hour source of support is the National Mental Health Crisis number 988. This is the mental health equivalent of calling 911. Calling or texting 988, and that's call or text, connects you to the 988 Lifeline, a hotline with trained counselors. You can also find them online at 988lifeline.org. It is important to reach out for help when you need it. There is no shame in seeking out help or support. Take care of yourself. You are worth it.
Thank you so much. And I think that the messages that you share are just as important as the policy actions that we can take and the activism, right, and the support to provide one another. We have to remember to take care of ourselves during this time, because we won't be able to help others, right? There's the old, right? If you're on the airplane, you have to put your mask on first. So thank you so much for giving us some of the skills of how to put that mask on in these difficult times. And we're going to close with a song from Cantor Helsner, and that we'll ask you all to join in. And then we're going to go enjoy some coffee and cookies in the social hall, and the congressman is able to stay with us. He survived the interview, we're pleased to say. And he'll be available for a few minutes to continue in there.
We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. Try it with me. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are young and old together. We are young and old together, and we are singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing for our lives. We care for one another. We care for one another, and we are singing for our people. We are a peaceful, loving people. And we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a peaceful, loving people. And we are singing, singing for our lives. Oh, shalom. Oh, say shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru. And we are singing, singing for our lives.
Thank you so much. There's no words that can top that. Let's all go and enjoy some cookies, some coffee, opportunities for more questions with the congressman for a few minutes. And also, please, there are a lot of people here who are members of this synagogue. There are a lot of people who are not members of this synagogue. Please try and take an opportunity to meet somebody who you don't know, to be able to engage, to find out why they're here, and see what we may be able to do together. Thank you all so very much.
If they're removing blacks and they're removing Hispanics and they're anything that is cultural, they could just pull out everything and destroy it. The funny one. An emergency really good. So and I call when I write about him I call him the orange guy. I think that's an animal. Really. And I put orange there. And I think, oh yeah. But I said, yeah. So this is how I put it. I have a picture of this spelling capital R-E-P-G-S period, three close. That's what I'm doing for once. And you know, when I'm wasting more time on Facebook, I can oh, so the Indian thing? No, the Indonesian thing, he was a Native American that planted the flag there. He's been, but here's, this one is so bad, it's hilarious. But I've seen it. You know what they did? They took that out. Oh yes, that was the main site. Here's good ever part.